Johndaversa podcast.
The reason they're talking about you is because you have something for them to talk about. Are they talking about the other kids? And I was like,
that's fantastic.
She's like, you don't know what they know, and that's okay because you haven't been there all 4 years. But this is what you have to offer, so you just keep pressing. It was always my mom and my grandmother. Then when I got to college, I heard those voices, my mother and my grandmother's voices. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn their language, and then I'm going to kill them in their language, and then I'm going to develop my own language. And that's exactly what happened. So now people are like, how can I help you? Versus, oh, you don't know anything. And it's just, rising above the crap. When life gives you lemons, you make lemon curd.
This episode, I got to sit down with the force of nature that is Jazzmeia Horn, vocalist, musician, composer, arranger, educator, entrepreneur, mother, and lover of life. This is our discussion. I'm here with Jazzmeia Horn. So thrilled and honored to have this space to talk with you.
Thank you.
For this podcast. Yeah, thanks for being here. So we just did a rehearsal with the Frost Jazz Orchestra downstairs, and you're guesting tonight, and you're filling it up. You give it everything that you have on every note. So impressed with all of that, and so much I want to ask you, but I just want to lead with, I knew about your artistry. I knew about this explosion of creativity. I knew about you as an artist. And what I saw in that rehearsal was you as a teacher. And that was like, oh, okay, there's, not only are you, it's obvious that it's a real passion behind what you're doing, like that mission. And I just wonder if I want to hear about your awareness of that and what your mission is behind that aspect of being in this lifetime, being this teacher, this like mother, teacher. Here's what's going on.
Thank you. Teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. She taught in the Dallas Independent School District for 30 years, 35 years.
Wow.
And so I didn't think about that until I started teaching how much just being herself was also the teacher that she was. Like, to me, she was just grandma, but she instilled so much in us, and then seeing her teach and her whole method of teaching was indulged in life. She didn't separate teaching in the same way we don't separate music as musicians from our lives. It's just a part of who we are. So it's all encompassing. My artistry, my musicianship, my education, it all goes together. Now, my mission in it is to make sure that I'm just sharing as much light as I possibly can. When I studied at the university, I did not learn as much as I would have liked to. And I think it's partially because there is a specific thing that you learn from the industry while you're in the industry. There's a specific thing that you learn on the stage while you're on the stage that you're not going to necessarily get in a classroom setting. So I want to bring that into the classroom by remembering who I am as a person, like my grandmother did, and just allow that to be a part of the journey instead of separating them. It doesn't make sense. Life lessons that you need, on the stage, for example, stage presence. What does that mean to you? Not just for a singer, but for a saxophone player, for a trumpeter, for a pianist. How does your hair look? Are you wearing something that you like? Have you prepared the music well enough to be your whole entire self and be free? All of those different elements help to develop a really good musician. And so I hope that I can put some of that in the ears, sow some seeds of that.
Well, from what I just saw, like it's gonna go in.
Good.
Like you're powerful.
Thank you.
And because you're not just teaching it, you're showing it. You are the example of it.
Thank you.
And I know that when we do the concert tomorrow night, it's going to be like, okay, maybe there's some of that applies to me too. Let me follow up on that. Actually, because I watched, because I knew we were going to sit down like this, and I watched a couple other interviews with you, and you talk about your grandmother a lot.
She means so much. I'm sorry, it's so redundant.
Oh, please,
but I love her so much.
Please don't be.
She's amazing.
I would like to know more about like what she inspired in you that you still keep with you, and you probably give to your children, right? That ancestral lineage.
Guttural. Yeah, she how can I talk about her? It just was amazing seeing her like go sit down at the piano and play some tunes, and then go in the kitchen and make this incredible meal that's connected. That sitting down playing that music, and then she'd go in the kitchen and she'd be like, "Oh, you're hungry? I'm gonna make y'all some dumplings." And she'd make chicken and dumplings. I was like, everybody in my family, you can ask any person in my family on my father's side, what was your favorite meal that Harriet Horn cooked? They're all gonna say chicken and dumplings, because it was her thing. She'd go out in the yard and get a chicken and wring its neck and pluck him and whatever, and then she'd put it down, and she'd go play a tune on the piano, and she'd come back and chop some vegetables and potatoes and onions and whatever, and she'd tell us she's going to the store and getting something, watch this. And we're like, watch this? What does that mean? She's like, I'm gonna leave the chicken on, watch it. I'm like, what does that mean? And by the time we got back, we knew that we better watch the chicken. If we didn't know what that meant, we knew we better watch it, otherwise she was gonna get us. And all of that means something more than it's not tangible. You know what I mean? Yeah. So all of that, her essence was what really sat with me, you know, to see her musicianship, being able to read and play piano and sing and do it all incredibly, then go into the kitchen and cook this wonderful meal for her family, then teach us about what she was playing at the piano or the meal that she was cooking and what we need to do, how we can apply those things in our life. For example, if she's sitting down at the piano, she says, you know, you want to make sure you understand what this song is talking about. You want to be real in what you are presenting to whoever. It was mostly church because she played in church. It's like some people, this is the hospital for them. This is where they get their illness dissolved. So you have to be that light. And then she'd say, you need to learn how to cook this because you may not have a wife. She said it to my brother. You may not ever have a wife who can cook. By the time you get married, which is true, most people our age don't know how to cook. So she knew. I really respected her so much because there's so much that she just knew or that she just embedded in us that we have now.
And what I'm hearing too, it's just that importance of you can know how to do something. Maybe it's the art, maybe it's the music, knowing how to read, knowing how to cook, but then to put love into everything in a way that makes it fly.
Absolutely.
You know? That's the intangible part.
Yeah.
That I think that, you know, a lot of times even in institutions like this, we can focus on the information because, okay, here's the information.
Yeah.
Which honestly, you can find it all on YouTube at this point.
Yeah.
But the real education is being able to rub shoulders with you, with anybody else that's bringing that passion, bringing all those worlds together. The mind and the heart, bringing the mind and the heart together. Sounds like that. I mean, from my outsider point of view, sounds like that's what your grandmother.
Oh yeah, I would agree with
gave to you all.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you grew up in Dallas, right? Yeah. So when did you start? Like, music is gonna be the thing. Like, I have to do this.
I always knew. When I was 3, my mom was like, you have to do something in the church now. You're old enough. If you know how to go to the potty and you know your ABCs and you can tie your shoes and you all know all the lyrics to all these songs, we about to put you to work. You doing something.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, what? So she's like, well, do you want to do this? And each week she would say, let's pay attention to this. So we'd pay attention to the usher board and how they would pass out the flyers, you know, hey, welcome to our church. And, you know, if you'd like to give a donation, here's this. And watch how they sweep the floors after church and they're passing out, you know, programs and they're welcoming everyone to their seat. And I was like, I don't like everybody, so I don't want to do that. But she's like, okay, so next week we're, you know, watching the, what did we do? I think we went straight to choir because I think I said to her, like, I don't really want to do anything else. I want to be by you. And she's like, well, you have to be in the peewee choir. And I fought. My grandmother was like, you are not better than anybody else at this church. Just because you're a child and you can sing well, like your mama, doesn't mean we're going to put you in the junior choir. But they did.
Well, that was my question, because like a lot of kids, like when their parents or whomever are telling them you got to do this, then automatically it gets shut down in you. Like, okay, I'll do it, but it's not what I want to do, and so it takes the fire away. Other people, like, it might motivate them, but I mean,
no,
okay,
because the other kids, they could sing, but I knew I had something different.
Okay.
They could sing, and it was fun singing with them, but they weren't on time. The tempo was off, and I'm like, y'all can't hear that y'all not singing the right notes, but I didn't know what that meant at the time. I'm like, you're not singing the right note. And my mom would laugh. She was like, how do you even know what the right note is? You know, she's like, yeah, how did you know that's not? So I'm like, I can hear it. I don't know how to explain it. I'm 3, but I'm like, they're not singing the right notes. That's why I don't want to sing with them. She's like, okay, let's go talk to grandma. So we went to talk to her. It's like, I don't want to be in the baby choir. And she's like, don't call it the baby choir. It was the peewee choir. It's like, I don't want to be in the peewee choir because they're not singing the right notes. And she knew that if she left me in that peewee choir, my tuning was, I don't have perfect pitch now, but any little small nuance, I can hear it if it's off. And she's like, all right, adult choir. And all the adults were like, okay, we got to get better, because here's this little 3-year-old who knows all the notes and the lyrics with not even knowing how to write yet. And we don't know it. We've got to get better. And my grandmother, like, she said, you know, you inspired those people today. You know, she'd say that during rehearsal. And so then I got to go back to the peewee choir, because the peewee choir was like, all right, we want to sing in the big choir too. And they were like, no. She's like, no, you go back to the peewee choir. And then the choir got better. And I was like, yes.
Because you've got that light, because you've got that love, because you've got that mission, and you have videos of this, right?
Yes.
I want to see.
I don't want to share. I had no teeth in my mouth. Oh my goodness.
Okay, and what are you all listening to at that when you're 3 years old? What's playing in the house?
So my mom was playing a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yes.
My granddad was playing a lot of Bobby Blue Bland and ZZ Hill and what's his name? Johnny. What's his name? Oh goodness, I can't remember his name. Oh, just old school blues. And my grandmother was playing At the Waters or Marian Anderson. They all had different stuff. My grandmother had her own record player. Nobody could touch it. And my granddaddy had like 45s and cassettes, and nobody could touch his stuff. And then my mom at her house had CDs. You know, she's a 70s baby. She had CDs. And I remember at home listening to a lot of the newer stuff. So Brandy and Monica, or Erykah Badu and Layla Hathaway, Let Us See. A lot of singers. My mom loved listening to singers. My grandmother and grandfather, they were okay with listening to guitar players that sang, or just instrumentalists that were not singers. My grandfather loved Led Zeppelin. Lord have mercy. I got so tired of hearing Led Zeppelin. He was a pastor, and everybody expected him to only listen to gospel music. It's funny, he never listened to gospel music. He only really listened to Al Green's old school gospel stuff. He would listen to that, but he mostly just listened to everything except for gospel. And that's actually how I learned a lot of eclectic music. You know, I didn't hear jazz until I was 12, 13 years old. And none of them played it for me. It was what they wanted to hear when they wanted to hear it.
I see. I actually hear a lot of Al Green.
Really?
And not even in the way you're singing, but the music that you're writing and bringing forth, and Marvin Gaye. And
all
it's
that's in there.
It's really embedded inside of it.
Thanks.
Donny Hathaway as well.
Oh, of course.
Okay, so you singing in church, you're badass.
Listening at home.
You go to Booker T.
Yeah.
What was that experience for you?
I hated it because I think if I had gone my freshman year, things would have been different. I mean, I'm thankful for my journey, but no friends at all. Not one. Because...
And you're such an extrovert too.
Yeah, it
you
hurt
need that
me.
bond, right?
It hurt me. I didn't have any friends because I was the newcomer. But because I was so I couldn't read or write music at all. Like I couldn't even give you, I don't even know where C was on the piano.
Even
No
from your
idea.
grandma?
Even from my grandmother.
Huh.
Because we were kids, so she taught us how to use our ears. She never showed us how to read the music. And my grandfather was the type of person who, he only allowed one child in the family to do one thing at a time. So since I was a singer, none of the other kids could sing. Since my brother was the male singer, none of the other boys could sing. Since my grandmother was the piano player, she was allowed to teach one child how to actually play, but everybody else had to just listen. That's how he was. I don't know. He passed away earlier this year, 98 years old.
Wow.
We don't know that's how he lived. He was like, this one person does this one thing, we're going to keep it that way. Didn't get to learn how to actually read theory, didn't get to do that. So when I went to Booker T, I had no knowledge of theory. And some of the kids made fun of me until they heard me sing, and they were like, oh. And then I was placed with all the upperclassmen, seniors, because my ears were big because of what my grandmother had sat and taught me all those years. And just because of what I had learned by listening, I would transcribe whatever. I didn't even know it was called transcribing, but I would listen and harmonize with it because I liked.
That's what I'm thinking. Is like that's a gift, right? To kind of to not get into that mind trip too early. So you're developing naturally all the way until it's time.
And I'm doing the same thing with my kids too. So I didn't have theory. I just, whatever was happening, you hear it, she'd give you the words. Pass me not, O gentle Savior. Say it. Pass me not, O gentle Savior. Have no idea what gentle means. Have no idea what pass me not means. The definition of these words, I don't know. She said, this is what you're singing. This is what you're singing. And you learned it, and then she'd give you the melody. Dee, 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 dee. And then you'd put the words with the melody, and now you have the song. And then you listen to how the chord changes go, and you listen to where your part is supposed to fit in. And then you listen to everybody else's part, where their parts are supposed to fit in. Now you hear chords with the voices. That's how it worked. It wasn't 1, 3, 5, 7. Wasn't that? It wasn't you're figuring out. I didn't have any of that. So I was made fun of for a minute, and I was like so subconscious about myself because I was like, I don't know what this is not my language. What am I supposed to do? And no one was there to say, most of the teachers were like, how do I even catch you up with your ears? Like, they didn't know what to do with me. So even when I went to college, I still didn't, I could give you C on the piano. It got better in that way. I couldn't tell the difference between Aeolian or pentatonic. I had no idea. If you play it, I would hear what the difference was, but to actually give you I didn't know any of that. So I was so far behind everybody, but I was gigging. Yeah, I was working because I could do it, but in school, I fell so far behind. Almost lost my scholarship.
Was there a part of it that actually fed your confidence and your knowing of what you can bring?
In high school or in college?
Either.
In high school, my mama said, she's like, the reason they're talking about you is because you have something for them to talk about. Are they talking about the other kids? And I was like,
that's fantastic.
She's like, you don't know what they know, and that's okay because you haven't been there all 4 years. But this is what you have to offer, so you just keep pressing. It was always my mom and my grandmother. Then when I got to college, I heard those voices, my mother and my grandmother's voices. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn their language, and then I'm going to kill them in their language, and then I'm going to develop my own language. And that's exactly what happened. So now people are like, how can I help you? Versus, oh, you don't know anything. And it's just, rising above the crap. When life gives you lemons, you make lemon curd. Not lemonade, because that's just water and sugar and lemons. You make a curd. You make a curd. Yeah, you churn it. It's a different kind of thing. Yeah. Lemonade is cute. Little 6-year-old can make some lemonade. You make a curd. You make a lemon tart. You make a lemon pie. So that was my lesson in it. And it just... yeah. Rise above it.
Say it again.
Rise above it.
I bet you pick up languages quick because of that, right? Like you hear the melody, the inflection, the accent and everything. It's like just put it in. What do you do? Rise above it.
Rise above it.
But you still feel it and own it, right?
Oh, of
it's
course.
not like you're not acknowledging
not in it. You're in it.
Yeah, it's both exist simultaneously. Yep. Okay, So then I'm thinking also, so you're going through high school and then you got to make that decision to go to New York, right? So how'd you go through that? Because that's a big leap, right?
Everybody said no.
Who said no?
My whole family.
That you shouldn't do it?
Yes.
And
my mom, my grandma, my dad, my grandfather.
They're looking out for you, right? So what's their reasoning? Because they believe in your talent, I would think.
Yeah, they definitely believed in my talent still. Well, those that are alive. My mother's the only one left. So they all were like, we just don't want you to go to New York. We can't afford to go to New York and help you if you get sick or something happens to you. So why don't you just go to North Texas, or why don't you go to, Texas A&M or something? And I'm like, there's no great jazz programs there. I don't want to go to North Texas. I want to go to New York. I want to go to Boston. I want to leave the nest. And they were all like, you're nuts. You're not going. So I made a deal with my grandfather. It was amazing. I told him, I said, if you allow me to utilize your church to have a benefit concert for me to raise money to go to New York, I'll give you half of the proceeds. He laughed just like you did. He laughed. He was like, whatever. Sure, you can have a benefit concert. You're never going to make the money.
I'm laughing because I'm smart.
$5,000. $5,000. We charged $10 to get in. We charged $5 for parking. And I was able to pay my cousins to watch the cars, to make sure no one's, because it definitely wasn't like the hood in the ghetto. So I told my cousins, hey, you guys go and watch the cars and make sure nobody's cars are, broken into or stolen. Someone sits at the door with security. My mom and my aunt, they had like food that they would make so that everybody could eat and they could purchase. And then people gave gifts, $5,000. And my grandfather my whole family was like, how did you? I'm like, I'm going to New York because you guys thought I couldn't do it. And they couldn't say no. Because everybody laughed. Everybody was like, girl, bye. There's no way you're going to raise money to go to New York. Do you know how much it costs to go to New York? And I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to make this custard.
and you're 18, right?
I'm 17. I'm 17. And I'm like, I'm making this custard. I don't care. I'm going to do it. And they all were like very shocked when I did it. And they were sad to see me go. But I left and I was happy. It's like, I'm getting out of here.
So I'm really interested in that. Like, can you get into the the little part of that fire where you had to go, you had to do it, and nothing was going to stop you, because that's so strong in you, like that powerhouse. What is that? What? I mean, can you even? So it's like it's just there.
I just feel like. It's here. It's like not even guttural. It's like in my chest. And then I feel it go all the way down to my toes. It's just like this feeling of like run. Like, but not run away. Just run towards what it is that you see. I know that's so weird.
Not at all.
But like.
What'd you see?
I just saw myself going to New York. I was like, I'm not staying here. I love y'all, but you guys are holding me back. And I didn't even know how to express that at 17. I just was very angry and bitter and sad and upset. But I knew that if I had a change in my life and got away from all those things, that they weren't belittling me, but they just kept me in a specific space that I didn't want to be in any longer. Things would get better for me. And they got worse before they got better. But I learned a lot. And I have battle wounds, and it was worth it.
I don't know. I've thought about this before, like the people that I know that are the most compassionate hearts, like there's just no judgment in them and there's just a lot of light. But they're usually the people that have experienced the most pain.
Yeah.
And so what is that? It's like, do you have to? Yeah, maybe. Maybe you got it. You have to experience it. If you think about it, frequency, like the lowest frequency will
get you
ground you and shoot
it's like
you
that with
right
the
up
voice.
to the top.
The lower you are in your vocal register, the higher you can obtain. Did you know that?
Same with the trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's why I like trumpets so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because also, with the trumpet, it's unlimited on the bottom.
Right.
and unlimited on the top. So it's like this, the roots of the tree and the branches on top, they mirror each other.
Yeah. That's nice to know.
Yeah. Yeah, but that fire, I can only imagine. I mean, I can feel what I feel from you right now. I can imagine Jazzmeia Horn at 17 years old saying, I'm going.
It was too much. It was too much. I've learned to tame my fire. It's a blue flame now. Before it was this red, wild flame out of control. And now it's like, it's blue. It's that torch. It'll burn a hole through your chest. But it only, it's concentrated now. It knows how to use it when it's necessary. Yeah. So.
Okay, so I don't know if you want to, there might be folks listening out there that would want to know what those battle scars are when you first go to New York. What is that? I mean, everybody's going to have a different story, right?
Yeah, everybody's story is different. Mine was men, and that's no disrespect to you or any man on this planet, but men were a pain in my butt. Like, for lack of better words.
Indeed.
I couldn't, I was like, oh my God, like, why? I was pushed off the stage a plethora of times because I didn't know the chord changes or the key or how to count the tempo off. You don't know the count? Okay, bye. Get off the stage. Like, wait, what? I didn't know I was supposed to know that. And then I'm in school, but I'm not being taught that. So I'm confused. I'm like, well, why didn't I learn this in class? So back to your question initially when we first started this podcast, it's like, what, that teaching, why? That's why, because there's so much that I didn't learn in the school. I said there's so many things that I would have loved to learn and I didn't. That's why I'm like, this is what I'm going to teach, because I didn't get that. So it hindered me from being able to, well, I don't want to say it hindered me from reaching my full potential because it helped me, but it hindered me from being able to communicate in the way that I would have liked to. Not knowing how to count my tempos off. They're not teaching that. Not knowing how to tell the musicians what kind of arrangement I want, like if I'm at a jam session. No idea. I have the respect that I have now because I worked hard to find my niche and find those things. But in the beginning, I had no idea what was up or down. And, that was troublesome for me. Most people, instead of them just saying, hey, this is how you do this, it was like, oh, on to the next. And I was like, all right, I'm going to learn y'all's language and I'm going to come back and I'm going to fuck y'all up all the way. And I was okay with that. For a while I was like, how do I do this? I was struggling. And I would go and like study with like George Cables or Billy Harper, and I'd say, teach me how to play over this change. And they'd be like, oh, that's just a 2/5 with a flat this and that and that. And I'd be like, okay, but what does that mean? Okay, cool. 2/5. Let's deal with it. And I'm like, oh, I'm learning the language. Get the language, got the language. Go back to the jam. This is where I want it, bro. Don't say nothing to me. This is my tempo, man. This is my tempo. This is my key. And now it's like, who is this person? And then it was like, not even 180, 360, a whole different way. Like, you're in realm 1. Now you're in like realm number 8. You skipped 1 through 7 because now you know this language. You understand this language. So now you're a part of the club. You're a part of the elite immediately. I'm like, I don't like how this is going. I don't like this. So I would see other singers and I'd be like, come here, let me tell you something. This is how you count off a tempo. This is how you got to learn your keys. And it's not going to be hard for you because you don't have frets and valves. Just listen. I'd put them on. I'd say, this is how it goes. But for a while, I didn't have any of that. And then there were also moments where, because I am a woman, musicians would expect me to sleep with them in order for me to have certain gigs, or promoters, like, oh, well, I want to hire you for this gig, but, I need something. I'm like, okay, what do you need? My little naive self, like, okay, what do you need? He's like, well, let's go to my office and and I'm like, go to your office? Those things happen.
Yeah.
In order for me to hire for you for this jazz festival, I need something from you. What you gonna give me? That's what they would say. Or, certain singers who I'd go to for advice would lead me in a completely dark place and send me to somebody they knew was gonna mess with me. men and women alike. So I can't even say men, you know. So it was rough because I moved to New York when I was 17. So I didn't know anything. And it was rough, but I learned quickly. I think the relationship that I had with my grandmother, where she showed me things instead of giving me the theory behind those things, helped me to be able to see people for who they really were. And I was able to stay out of danger. Like, things hurt, but they didn't pierce me. I mean, not in a penetrating matter. It was like a little flesh wound. It didn't go through. So, but I learned from those things, and I didn't allow them to, you know, ruin who I am. Not my essence. No.
Let me ask you this in that regard. I love the difference between, it's subtle, but there's a difference between women lead and a difference between the way men lead, and the way that, and it can be done really well or not very well on both sides.
Yes.
You know, but you're coming in and most all these folks are men, right? So even a great leader that might be male would lead a certain way. And then you have to learn how that's going to work for you, but still have the power that any leader would have. And so I wonder if you could talk about that and you know what those differences are, because I mean I see it when a woman's leading and she's like in her power. It's not like a man, but it's.
Why don't you tell me what you mean? Because I don't know if I see it.
No, and obviously I'm speaking very generally here, which is always the trap, right? But no, I mean even just to express clearly,
right.
When a woman is like in her power and in command of everything that she's creating there with the band, there's still a softness about it, and there's a way of doing it that's not. It only needs to be this way. It's not
okay.
with even in communication, I guess is what I'm talking about. It's not. It's the answer is A and play A.
Right.
You know, it's more. It sounds like this. You hear what it is, okay, and it's like just as clear, but it's delivered in a different way. And I'm not putting one over the other. It's just different.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm always curious, you know, if you think about that, if you observe similar things, or maybe not, you know, or sometimes I see women that are also powerful, but they're adapting to a male way of doing it because they have to speak that language. They're having to adapt.
And see, that's what I refuse to do. I refuse to do that. Like, I'd rather just be myself in whatever it is. You know, I'll see a man lead and I'll say, okay, that's nice, but you're masculine, I'm feminine, and this is the way I see it, and this is how it's going to be. We need the balance, just like the sun and the moon. We need that.
Yes.
When my children, for example, I'll say, don't bang on the piano. Well, I never have to say that to my children because they're not, but I'll say, don't jump on the sofa. I always have to say that. Don't jump on the sofa. Don't jump on the sofa. I really don't like it when you jump on the sofa. You know, if you fall, I'm going to be very upset with you. Because I'm not going to help you because I've already told you not to jump on the sofa. My dad comes in the room, he's like, get down. They never jump on the sofa again. You know what I mean? So you just need balance. You just need it. Sometimes if I'm in the rehearsal space with a bunch of men, because we are naturally not going to communicate the same way, I have to have a man say something that I want to say. Sometimes, depending on how much older than these men are than me, because a lot of the older generation, even though it's my music, and I have not dealt with this in my noble force, but when I've played with big bands around the world, if I don't have a music producer or a record executive or someone, even though I own my own label now and write all my music and even the big band stuff, unless I have a man there that can be assertive, they may not take what I say to face value. They may say, oh, that's not what she meant. I'm like, I just told you what I meant, and you still. So it's just, I think men have always had the upper hand in a way that, like, there's this privilege there that you don't even think about it. You say something and everybody listens to you. You know, news reporters, corporate America, you say what you want and what you mean, and you get it immediately. And women have to fight for that. Well, I'm not fighting. I'm just going to say what it is. And if you don't listen, I'm just going to call somebody else. And that's just going to be the end of the day. This is my camp. Like, I'm going to run it how I want to run it.
Brava.
That's it.
For what it's worth, when we were rehearsing, we had never met before.
Right.
So we didn't have any history.
And I didn't know. I was like, are we going to, like, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
So when I walked in, you were leading, and I was like, I'm going to let him leave because I don't want any issues.
Really?
And then you said, guys, welcome Miss Horn. And I said, okay, he's allowing me to. I was like, okay, this is going to be fine. But it's not always the case.
Well, it's like, and it's also, when you go in like a jam session culture, right? And you've never played with those people before, you're also like, you're establishing a certain language that you both know. Okay. So we both know that language. And then there's a trust with that. And then you're playing and it's like, okay, can we stretch it here? Can we stretch it? Oh yeah. Yeah. And then, oh no, we're not going to go, and then it's there, so you're like feeling each other out.
Right.
But it was very clear to me, okay, you know every note in that score.
Because I wrote it.
You know exactly what it needs to be, where it needs to go. I want them to see that you're going to count off the tunes, because you're doing it, and like this is you're in control here. And you also at the same time, you gave that power back to me too. It was going back and forth, so we can.
It's a balance that I like.
We can flow.
I
Me
like
too.
to have that. I don't like it for it to be just sterile and alcohol. It's like, it's nature. It's the grass and trees,
Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm describing. It sometimes I feel like, and I understand, and I've spoken to a lot of women about it. They feel like they have to hold that masculine energy to be able to do what they want to do, and so they're losing themselves in it. Is the irony?
Yeah, that's the thing. You will lose yourself because you're not a man. You're not masculine. I mean, women have the femininity and the feminine side and the masculine side, and men have the masculine and feminine side.
Yes,
but you are where you are, so it's like you're gonna lose yourself if you start to. I'm gonna be a man, and I'm gonna. Not me. I'm gonna be a lady, and I'm okay with that.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. You just mentioned something else that's really important. You have your own label.
Yeah.
Are you like completely independent at this point? You're
completely independent.
So tell me about your world. Tell me about your business world.
It's a lot.
Right.
What can I say?
And how did you come to that too, right?
We'll start there.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Concord. I kind of mentioned this a little bit in rehearsal, and I was trying not to be all over the place when I said it. But I was talking to Concord. I won the Monk competition in 2015,
right. And
they signed me, and we did 2 records. And then when the pandemic happened, I said, I have this big band project. I don't want to be 50, by the time I record big band projects. Because if you think about Diane Reeves and Gregory Porter and Dee Dee Bridgewater and their careers, it was like later in their careers, not in their 30s when they finally recorded a big band project. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to record what's in my head right now. And it just happens to be a big band. And they were like, well, we don't have the budget for that. I'm like, you're a record company. You have the budget or you don't. That's not like, what are we doing here? They were like, we don't have the budget. And I was like, I'm going to get out of this contract now. Because
again, I'm hearing like, I'm moving to New York.
Hello. A curd, okay?
Yeah.
A custard. Like, yes. It's like, all right, so keep your lemons. I'll just go I'll figure it out. And they were like, are you serious? I'm like, I'm going to figure it out, honey. I'm going to figure it out. So they were like, all right, they let me out of the contract. I was like, God, what am I going to do? And so I sat down and I began to write. Yeah, that's a leap of faith for real. I began to write, and not music. This was not music. I began to write down my thoughts of like all these things that I did not learn in school that I wanted to learn. And that turned into a book called Strive From Within, the Jazzmeia Horn Approach. And when I finished...
I don't know about this. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
It turned into a book.
Okay.
It's on Amazon. Self-published. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put this book out there.
Would you say the name of it one more time?
It's called Strive From Within, the Jazzmeia Horn Approach. It's like an Ebersol, but for vocalists with some other things. So there's like a stage plot and there's like a whole bunch of stuff in there that you need to be able to understand as a vocalist. So I released it on ebook first because my fans were coming from Spain and Germany and Italy, and we were locked. This was 2020. We were locked in.
Okay.
And so by 21, there were like 300 women who were writing to me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And they were like, ma'am, this is not being taught. Like, I didn't even know this. Can I study with you? And I was like, there's like 300 of you guys, and I homeschool my kids. There's no way I'm going to be able to teach at this university online and teach you guys. And I was like, oh no. So I quit. I left the universities and I started my own online course.
I see.
And I had, during the time I was teaching the online course from the book, like utilizing the book as the curriculum. And then I was like, you know what? I can finish the rest of this big band music because I'm going to utilize this course to sponsor my big band record. I'm just going to start my own label.
Powerhouse.
So, you know, all the labels were contacting me right after that big band record came out. When is your next record? I'm like, nope. Empress Legacy Records. Sponsored record. So now, get this, no licensing agreements with any labels. It's all mine. All the GS1 codes, the barcodes for distribution. I'm not sharing anything. And the producing, I put in my children's name so that when they decide they want to go to college or wherever, they have funds from this record to sponsor their business or their program or whatever it is that they want to do. So no, I'm not sharing with you. I'm sharing with my legacy, my children. And has it been a very difficult journey? Yes. But it has been so worth it. I would not trade it for the world. All the pain and suffering, all the long nights, all the crying, all the trying to get my head in this door and that corner and find out who's the publicist for this and that. And I love it. I love having a label now. It's great. I don't have to share anything. I don't have to say, can I do this? I just do. I just be, and be is being now. And it's just, it's evolving. And there's still things that I have to learn. I don't know everything.
What?
But I know a lot. And what I do know, I put it to good use. Just like my grandmother, making that dumpling and going, you see, it never left me. It's always there. What do you do with what you know how to do? All I knew was what I learned in school and what I didn't learn in school. And I wrote about that. And I shared that because people needed to hear that, especially women.
Yeah.
And I started this course and people are taking this. At one point, we had 7,000 students. That's more than most universities. Which is why I then went ahead and bought some land and that's...
Check you out. That's a powerful vision.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful because it could have spiraled downward and kept going. There are so many places that it could have gone. There were so many times I'm like, oh my God, is this going to work? And it did. It worked. And it's working. It's still working.
It just feels really powerful.
Thank you.
What's next?
I don't know.
What's the next vision?
Oh, there are visions.
Yeah.
But I have to pick one.
Visions.
Yeah, there are several visions. I just have to pick one and stick by it. Right now, I'm okay with the school, and I'm accepting the constructive criticism from the students of what they would like and what they would like more of, and what they would rather not have.
Jazzmeia, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of work.
We had time. We were sitting at home. We couldn't go anywhere.
Well, but now you're touring, doing that.
Yeah.
You got 2 kids.
The children. Oh,
come on.
Oh, it's a lot.
And with all those things, you're vetting publicists, you got the road manager, you're figuring out how that's all going to work.
No, I have that. I have the team.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's a part of the book is like strategizing your team, because you can't do anything without the team. I'm not doing things on my own. I have a project manager, I have a tour manager, I have a personal assistant, I have a radio publicist, I have a media publicist, I have a social media manager, a content manager. Yeah. And the way that I started looking for these people was asking college students, would you like to intern for me? And they eventually became employees of my business versus them just having internships.
Okay.
There's a brain in there.
I think so.
There's a brain in there.
Musically, where you think you're going now?
So I'm working on some hip hop stuff.
Yeah? Why are you laughing?
Because I almost didn't say it. Because I'm working on some hip hop stuff and it's amazing. Oh my God. We may have to stop filming for this because it's so good. So I posted something what feels like months ago because I have like 20,000 emails that I haven't responded to. It's literally that many and I feel so bad because I haven't been able to. It's too many. I just said, hey, I want a new producer and I want it to be hip hop, no jazz. And everybody's like, check out my beat. And I'm like, oh God, this is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And then I went to see Ninth Wonder and who was it? Timberland. And I said the same thing there. And then the emails and everybody was like, wait, you're a Grammy nominated artist. I have to try. So now I have all these beats and like some of them I think I may use for the next record and some of them I don't know. But I have something to say and it's not going to be jazz. And I just want to share something a little bit different with the world. The new record is coming out soon. So the hip hop record will be after that.
So the new record's a
It's
jazz.
already been recorded.
Okay.
It's already been mixed and
Is it a big
mastered.
band?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not a big band. It's a trio with a few horns. Marquise Hill is on the record.
Oh, awesome.
Brandy Younger is on the record. It's nice. It's very, it's cute. It's cute, but it's not, it's very much like Love and Liberation, that record. Mostly original compositions to standards, I think. One standard, and then original compositions, but they sound like standards, so people may think, sometimes that happens with my music. They're like, oh, who wrote this? And I'm like, me. Me.
How do you write? Do you dedicate time to write, or
No.
is it just when it happens, it happens?
I have a recorder.
Yeah.
My phone. I use the voice recorder on my phone, but I also have like a little small tape recorder. And if I'm on the train, the best time is the train or the airplane for me. I'm just sitting and I have nothing to do. And all those thoughts that are like living back there, they come forward and I'm like, all right, cool. What do I want to do with this? And then when the children are asleep, you know how that goes. I'm like, all right, let me sit down at the piano. What does this sound like? Let's get it out of my head and onto paper, or at least out. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I just have a book, and depending on what my theme is for the record, I'll just add those tunes to the theme. They're just sitting there, and I don't want to share them yet. Yeah. Some of them are done, and some of them are like, this was an idea that may not work. You know.
Can you share your process for when you wrote the big band project? Because that's really interesting and I think really important for folks to hear because it makes it it's so organic. Like
share the actual tracks?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that, but sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're in, I'm in.
So this is funny. The way that I wrote the big band record, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between, I recorded everything on GarageBand. So I don't know how to use Finale or Sibelius. I handwrite everything. So instead of me, I didn't want to handwrite a whole big band, not even one song. It was just going to be too much. I was like, this is a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, Nia probably would have been the least complicated out of all of them if I did handwrite it. But I was like, I'm just not going to do that. Mm-hmm. So I just sang everything into GarageBand. I just played from the yellow.
I do the same thing, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I do the same thing. You know, there's something about pulling down, especially in that first part of the process when you're writing, the most pure download.
Yeah.
And it's like it's coming through you and not, it has nothing to do with you.
Right. It's directly
moment.
from the source.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, you know, I'll write long stretches like that, and I write on the plane, and I write on the in the car, and like that's it. And then when it's time to kind of rein it in,
and
then you put it down.
Mm-hmm.
Jazzmeia, this is really fun. I could do like 3 more hours, but I won't do that to you. You're just a really, really beautiful light, a really beautiful soul and heart, and it's so apparent in the music. And I just wish you all the fire that you got. That I'm moving to New York for the rest of this lifetime here, because we need you. We need you here doing that. We need you here. Telling us the messages that you know you have to deliver. Like I feel that in you. Like I have to deliver these messages, and through this music. And it's such a great example.
You know, that's the name of the next record, Messages. I swear to you, I'm not lying. That is the name of the next record. It's called Messages. Wow, I've never said that out loud.
And so we are in tune. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Much gratitude, everyone, for checking out the podcast. Please just subscribe and follow and like and add a comment, as it really helps us expand and grow and keep us all connected together. So I appreciate it very much, and I send you much, much, much love. I'll see you on the next one.